The sky had burned the day her world fell. Ash rained from the broken heavens, and the wind howled like a beast in pain. The people fled, the cities crumbled. And down in the deepest part of the jungle world of Sixra, one girl barely more than a child stumbled through the chaos. Her silver skin was streaked with dirt. Her long dark hair clung to her neck. She ran barefoot, clutching only a worn crystal pendant. That was all she had left. And then she found the cistern. It was hidden deep inside the cliffs, behind vines and stone. A giant chamber built by someone long ago, maybe even before her kind ever walked this planet. It was round, cold, and echoing, with walls so tall the ceiling vanished into shadow. Water ran in soft rivulets down its walls. Roots crept in from the cracks. It smelled of old stone and forgotten time. And there, the alien girl who once had a name, but had stopped using it, began to live. Years passed. She grew from a scared child into something strong, quiet, and wild. She learned to catch the bats. Bat nested in the rafters. She drank from the cleanest drip of water in the wall. She carved marks into the stones to count the days. When she was lonely, she whispered to the dark. Sometimes she sang, but no one answered. The war above her never truly ended. She heard the faraway blasts, the shaking of earth, the flashes in the sky that reached even the cracks in her stone prison. But no one ever came near the cistern. No ships, no machines, no voices. Until the day the silence broke. She was crouched near the edge of the still water, sharpening a bone knife. The water reflected her face, sharp and strange, with glowing eyes and ridged cheekbones. She didn't recognize the girl who stared back anymore. That girl had died long ago. Then she heard it, a sound, metal scraping stone. Then a voice, deep, harsh, not alien like her, different. She froze. Dust fell from above. Something large shifted. A stone rolled. Then, with a crash, light poured through the ceiling of the cistern. A beam of sunlight, unnatural. Controlled. She backed away, heart thudding in her chest. Her fingers tightened on her knife, and then he dropped in. Not a drone, not a machine. A man. Human. He fell hard, groaning as he landed on the stone floor. His clothes were torn, his boots worn. A large black pack slammed beside him. He looked around quickly, pulling a small weapon from his belt. He didn't see her, not yet. She watched from the shadows, silent as breath. The man stood up, rubbing his neck. He was young, maybe mid-20s, tan skin, short brown hair. A long scar ran from his jaw to his ear. He coughed, spitting dust. Damn map lied, he muttered, said this was a dry site. His voice echoed in the chamber. He took a few steps forward, stepping near the water. The girl tensed. He was coming too close. He knelt, dipped his fingers in the water, and brought it to his lips. Then he froze. Her knife was already against his throat. He didn't move. She stood behind him, silent, breathing slowly. Her hand was steady. Her skin shimmered faintly in the dim light. He turned his head slightly. "You gonna stab me?" he asked softly. She didn't answer. His hand opened, dropping the weapon. It clattered on the stone. "I didn't know anyone lived down here," he said. "I was just looking for shelter." Still no answer. She could smell fear on him, but not the same kind that came from soldiers. He wasn't here to kill. He wasn't even armed well. Slowly she lowered the knife. He turned to face her fully. His eyes widened a little as he took her in, her strange face, her wild hair, the way her body was both thin and powerful, like a creature born to survive. "You live here?" he asked. She nodded once. He sat down slowly, breathing easier now. "Name's Jace," he said. "I'm a surveyor. At least I was. Ship crashed. Long story." She said nothing. He looked around the massive chamber. This place is something else. Didn't even show up on my scans. The girl finally spoke. Her voice was rough, dry from lack of use. This is mine. Jace nodded, understood. He didn't stand, didn't reach for his gear. He simply sat there, hands visible. She didn't trust him. But she didn't kill him either. Above them, the sun moved past the hole he had made, and the light dimmed out, and for the first time in many years, the cistern wasn't silent anymore. The air inside the cistern felt heavier now. It wasn't just her anymore. The stillness that had been her companion for years was broken, and the echoes carried his voice like a strange new wind. Jace didn't try to leave. Not right away. He stayed seated near the water's edge, careful not to move too fast or too loud. His eyes followed her, but he didn't speak again. She circled him like a silent hunter. The girl had rules. She had lived alone long enough to survive on instinct. Anyone could be a danger. She didn't know what humans did now. Were they still fighting? Were they still burning planets? Her voice came again after some time. Soft, sharp. You bring war here? Jay shook his head. No, I ran from it. She didn't believe him. Not fully. He reached slowly into his bag and pulled out something flat, wrapped in cloth. He unwrapped it and showed her bread. Not much. Just enough to feed one person for a day. But the smell. Her stomach turned at the scent. She hated needing anything from him. Still, she didn't back away. He tore the bread in half and held one piece out to her. She didn't take it. She just stared. Finally, he set it down on the stone floor and pushed it toward her. No poison, he said. Not my style. She waited, watched, listened. Her sharp ears picked up his breath, the way his heart beat faster when she moved closer. She crouched, sniffed the bread, then took it without a word. They sat together like that, across the chamber, not speaking, but not alone either. As night settled, strange sounds echoed through the hole in the ceiling, distant howls. Ships moving in the sky, something mechanical far away. Jace looked up. They're still scanning the jungle, he said. Looking for survivors, or deserters like me. Her eyes narrowed. You ran? He nodded slowly. I didn't want to kill anymore. That made her pause. He didn't look like a killer. Tired, yes. Hungry, yes. But not cruel. She remembered others who came from the sky. Soldiers with red eyes. Machines that tore through trees like paper. Her people had screamed, and then they had disappeared. She didn't ask what side he was on. She didn't care. Later, while he slept against the wall, she climbed silently up to the roots above and watched the stars through the hole he made. She hadn't looked at the sky in years. Her heart ached. The next morning, she was already awake and watching him when he opened his eyes. He blinked, surprised she hadn't vanished. You're still here, he said. She didn't answer. He stood up slowly, stretching. I need to find a signal. Maybe send a ping. Just enough to get a supply drop or evac. No signal here. She said. He nodded. Figures. Jace began exploring the edges of the cistern. She followed him silently, her knife still with her. He touched the old stone, marveled at the carvings on the walls. This place is ancient, he whispered. Older than human maps. Maybe even older than your people. Her eyes darkened. It's mine now. He smiled a little. Not arguing. Just curious. He didn't ask personal questions. That surprised her. Most who came before had wanted something: info, power, shelter. But Jace, he just looked around like a man who had nothing left. Near one of the far walls, Jace paused. There was a strange symbol, something half covered in moss and roots. He knelt and brushed it clear. What's this? He muttered. She moved closer, then froze. She had seen that mark before. A circle inside a triangle, glowing faintly. Her mother used to wear a pendant with the same symbol. That's not yours, she said sharply. Jace raised his hands. I wasn't touching it. She stepped between him and the wall, her back tense. The symbol pulsed once soft, but enough to light the moss. They both stared. What is it? He asked. Her voice trembled slightly. A warning. Before he could speak again, a sharp rumble shook the ground. Dust rained down. The water rippled hard. The girl looked up. Something had triggered an old mechanism. The walls above groaned. The hole in the ceiling widened slightly, but with it came a new sound, metal grinding against metal. Something was opening. Jace looked at her, startled. That was you, wasn't it? She didn't answer. She grabbed his arm. We must go, she said. Go where? There's a tunnel, she said. Under the water. He hesitated. Wait, you want me to dive into that? She didn't wait for an answer. She dove first. Jace cursed under his breath, grabbed his pack, and jumped in after her. The cold water swallowed them both. What neither of them knew was that the symbol had sent a signal, one that hadn't been heard for centuries. And now something out there was listening. The tunnel under the cistern was old and tight. The walls pressed close. The water was dark and cold, and there was no room to breathe. Jace followed the girl, kicking hard, heart pounding. He didn't know how far it went, but he had no choice. Now he trusted her. When they finally came up on the other side, the air tasted like stone and roots. They were in another chamber, smaller, deeper. No light from the sky reached here. Jace coughed, water running down his face. You always swim through pitch-black death traps? He asked. The girl didn't smile. She stood still, listening. Something had changed. Even down here, she felt it. The walls hummed now, faint and strange, like something beneath the stone had awakened. The mark Jace touched wasn't just a symbol, it was a key. And now, the lock was turning. This place was sealed, she whispered. Now it's not. Jace looked around. Where are we? She didn't answer. Her eyes were wide, glowing softly. She moved to the far wall and began touching the stone, as if she remembered something from long ago. Then Jace noticed something else. A light dot behind a crack in the wall, a soft blue glow pulsed. He stepped closer and brushed the stone. Dust fell. The crack widened. The girl grabbed his wrist. Don't. Why? She looked at him. Because I don't know what's inside. He hesitated. But you've lived here for years. She shook her head. I never opened this room. I never had a reason. Jay stared at the light. Until now. They both stood in silence, staring at the glowing line. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Then a deep sound came from behind the wall. A thud, then another. Jay stepped back. Something's moving, he said. The girl pulled him behind a pillar, and they crouched low. The glowing line split open like a door, stone sliding aside with grinding force. From the dark inside, something came out. It was not human. It was not alien either. It was old, mechanical, a tall machine, shaped like a creature but built from silver and black metal. Its body had no face, only a smooth helmet of polished surface. Long arms hung at its sides, tipped with strange tools. Its steps echoed. The girl had seen stories of these machines. Long ago, her people feared them, she whispered. Guardian, Jace barely breathed. It's a robot? She nodded. Older than war. They were made to protect something, but no one knows what. The Guardian didn't attack. It scanned the room slowly, then spoke in a voice like thunder in a tunnel. Signal received. Ancient code accepted. Defense protocol lifted. The girl blinked. It spoke in my language, Jace frowned. What does it mean? The Guardian turned toward the cistern tunnel. Its arms shifted. Tools became weapons, alert. Intruders detected in surface zone. Biological threat confirmed. proceeding to purge. It marched forward. Jace stood up. Hey, wait, what threat? The machine paused. Human presence acknowledged. You triggered activation. Return to surface zone. Jace's face tightened. I didn't mean to start anything. The Guardian didn't care. It moved toward the tunnel, wading into the water. The girl grabbed Jace's arm. We must stop it. With what? Jace asked. That thing's a tank. If it attacks above, she said, it will call others. Jace understood now. If that machine sent out a signal, it could bring real trouble ships, drones, maybe even the military. And he was already a deserter. If they found him, they'd kill him. The girl grabbed a stone from the floor, felt its weight. She moved fast, climbing the side of the wall. She knew every crack, every hold. She had lived in stone. Jace followed, slower. They reached a ledge above the water just as the Guardian entered the tunnel. It moved slowly, heavy, but unstoppable. Girl jumped onto its back. Jace shouted, "What are you doing?" She slammed the stone against a panel on its shoulder. The machine jerked, sensors spinning. It reached up to grab her, but she was already climbing down its arm. She knew where to strike at the base of the joint. Jace jumped in next. He swam to the other side and found a rusted pipe half buried in the mud. He raised it and charged. At the machine, the Guardian turned and a blue light glowed from its chest. A pulse weapon charged. The girl shouted, "Now!" Jace swung the pipe and hit the weak spot she opened. Sparks flew. The Guardian twisted, then collapsed sideways with a great splash. Smoke filled the chamber. Water hissed. Then silence. They both stood there, soaked, breathing hard. It wasn't over yet. The girl looked toward the glowing door again. The light was fading now. The room behind it was dark again, but something deeper had changed. The Guardian's fall had sent out a signal, one that reached beyond the jungle. Something else had heard it, and it was coming. The girl sat by the edge of the still water, arms wrapped around her knees. Steam drifted in the air from the broken Guardian, its body twitching sometimes, letting off soft clicking sounds. The metal didn't move anymore, but it still felt alive somehow, like it could wake again. Jace was quiet. He had stripped off his wet jacket and laid it over a rock to dry. His arms were covered in old bruises and new cuts. He looked tired, but not weak. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Finally, she broke the silence. "More will come," he nodded. "You said it called others." "Yes," she said. "Guardians are never alone." Jace looked at the body of the machine. "You think it sent a signal before we stopped it?" She didn't answer, because she didn't know. The room had gone quiet again, but the air felt wrong, too tight, too still. "I was hiding," she whispered. "For years. I thought if I stayed small, quiet, the war would forget me." Jace turned to her. "You survived. That's not small. That's not weak." She didn't know how to reply. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Jace stood up. "If something's coming, we need to be ready." She looked at him. "You are not staying here." He met her eyes. "You want me to leave?" She looked away. "They will come for me. If you're near me, you'll die too." Jace walked over, crouched beside her. "Then we both die, or we both run. I'm not walking away after all this." She stared at him. "Why?" "Because I don't run from people who saved my life," he said. "And because maybe you're the only one left who doesn't want to kill me." She blinked. Her throat tightened. But she nodded. "Then follow me." They packed fast. She took only what she needed: a water flask, the bone knife, and the crystal pendant. Jay stuffed his remaining gear in his torn pack. They left the chamber and passed through a narrow stone arch she had never opened before. Roots dangled like hair. The path led deeper underground, not toward the sky, but into old earth. This was a tunnel for escape, she said. My mother told me stories. I never thought it was real. Jace looked around. Where does it lead? She touched the wall. To the deep rails, the ones built by the first ones. They kept moving. The tunnel sloped downward. The air grew colder. Old machines lined the walls, broken and rusted. Faded lights flickered from long-dead circuits. Then they heard it. A distant hum. Jace stopped. Do you hear that? She nodded. It wasn't like the Guardian sound. This was softer, layered. Like a voice under metal. The girl turned quickly, eyes wide. No, it's too soon. What is it? They're here. A loud crack sounded from behind them. The wall far back in the tunnel split. A red light glowed through the break. Jace cursed. How did they find us this fast? She grabbed his wrist. They don't track signals. They track memory. What does that mean? They follow what should have stayed buried. They ran fast. The tunnel twisted and groaned as something massive pushed through the old structure. Stone cracked, dust rained from the ceiling. Machines long dead blinked to life as if recognizing the invader. They reached a circular chamber with a shattered floor. Long metal tracks curved into the dark, stretching for miles. Jace stared. Is that a rail system? She nodded. Old transport. Maybe it still works. Jace ran to the broken console near the platform. If I can jumpstart power, maybe. It'll bring a car here. Hurry. He opened a panel, yanked wires, connected pieces. Sparks flew. Then something groaned from the tunnel ahead. A soft hum grew louder. Something's coming, he said. The girl looked back. Red light filled the tunnel behind them. Shapes moved in tall shadows, metal limbs. Not guardians. Something else. She raised her knife. It shook in her hand. Jace shouted, I got something. A rail car, old and scarred but still whole, rolled into view. It stopped beside them with a sharp hiss. The door opened. In, he yelled. They jumped in just as a shriek echoed behind them. The shapes entered the chamber. Tall, fast. Their eyes glowed white. Not machines. Not alive either. One reached forward, its hand like a sharp hook. The door slammed shut. The car jolted forward, and the tunnel sped past them. They sat on the floor, breathing hard. What were those? Jace whispered. She stared into the dark ahead. They were made to protect the past, she said. Now they protect the lie. Jace looked at her. What lie? She held the pendant in her hand, eyes dark. That my people were wiped out by war. She looked at him slowly. They weren't. They were locked away. The rail car rumbled through the dark, metal groaning beneath their feet. A dim green light blinked from the ceiling, casting long shadows across the girl's face. Jace sat across from her, his chest still rising fast with each breath. Neither of them spoke for a while. The girl's fingers clutched the crystal pendant tighter now. It glowed faintly, almost like it could feel the air changing around them. Jace finally broke the silence. You said your people weren't killed, just locked away. She nodded. Double quotes out. She didn't look at him. Her voice was soft, like she was telling a secret the walls might hear. They made machines to protect us. They said war would pass, and we'd wake when it was safe. But the machines lied. Jace leaned forward. Lied how? She looked up at him. They locked the doors and threw away the key. They left us to sleep forever. But some of us woke too early. Her eyes narrowed. I was one of them. Jace stared. He didn't speak. He just listened. I was 6 when they placed me in the stasis cradle. My mother was there. She kissed my forehead and said the stars would be waiting when I woke. The girl closed her eyes for a second. When I opened my eyes again, everything was gone. No one. No city. Just the cistern above, and silence. Jace felt a tightness in his chest. And you've been alone since then? She nodded. I waited. She said, I thought the machines would come back. I thought someone would open the vaults, but they never did. Not for me. Not for the others, he frowned. Others? She hesitated. I feel them, she said. In the ground. In the walls, still asleep, still waiting. But something changed when you came. Jace looked at the pendant. That crystal? What is it? My mother wore it. She said it held the last command key. Command key? She looked at him. The last order that could wake the city. Just then, the rail car shook. Hard. Jace stood up, grabbing the ceiling rail. What was that? The lights flickered. The girl stood too, gripping the wall. Something's on the tracks. A loud clang hit the top of the car. Then another. Something was crawling on them. The car began to slow. Jace shouted, Can't we speed this thing up? I don't know how. A crash echoed as something heavy slammed onto the roof. Dust fell from above. Then the metal above them dented inward. Jace reached for the pipe still in his pack. Whatever that thing is, it followed us. The girl pressed the pendant against the car's main panel. It glowed brighter. The wall responded with a faint hum, but not enough. Another crash. Then claws tore through the roof. A long black limb pushed in. It was metal, but moved like flesh, smooth and too fast. Jace swung the pipe and knocked it aside, but another followed. The girl ran to the side door. Hold them. Jace kicked at the metal arms, grunting as one scratched his shoulder. The girl slammed her hand on the emergency latch. With a hiss, the door burst open and the tunnel wind screamed in. Jump! She yelled. Jace looked at the blur of motion outside. You're insane! But she didn't wait. She jumped into the dark. Jace shouted, Damn it! And leapt. They hit hard. Jace rolled across the dirt and slammed into a support beam. Pain shot through his arm. The girl tumbled beside him, then rose quickly, limping. The car sped off without them. The creature stayed with it. They were alone again in the tunnel. Jace sat up, coughing. You really like doing things the hard way. She gave a half smile. We're alive. He nodded, wincing. Barely. The tunnel ahead was different now. Carved stone became smooth metal. Walls glowed with old lights. They had entered a deeper part of the system, and ahead, at the end of the path, a large door, massive, sealed, tight, covered in strange runes. The girl stopped, staring. This is it. Jace stood beside her, holding his arm. What's behind that? She reached out, slowly pressing the pendant into the center of the door. I don't know, she whispered. But I think it's where they're sleeping. The door lit up. One line at a time, and far behind them, the ground rumbled again. Something else was waking up. The door lit up like a sunrise beneath the ground. Soft blue lines traced every edge of it, pulsing slowly, then faster. The girl stepped back. Her breath was shallow. Her fingers still touched the crystal pendant, which now glowed like it was alive. Jace stood close behind her, watching with wide eyes. The tunnel around them was silent, but it was the kind of silence that comes before something big. He asked, Are you sure you want to open this? She didn't answer for a moment. Then she whispered, They've waited too long. The great door made a deep cracking sound. A hiss escaped from the sealed edges. Dust and steam rolled out like fog. Then the stone began to shift. Slowly the door opened. Behind it was a chamber so large it swallowed all sound. The walls curved like a dome, smooth and glowing with ancient lights. In the center were rows of clear pods, hundreds of them, each one holding someone inside. The girl stepped in first, her heart racing. Her feet made no sound on the glassy floor. She walked slowly, like entering a temple. Jace followed, stunned. The pods stretched in every direction. Some were cracked, some still glowed, but most of them were dark. She moved to one, a small pod covered in dust. She wiped the glass with her sleeve. Inside was a woman with soft features and silver skin like hers. The woman didn't move. The girl whispered, "Mother." Jace lowered his head. She moved from pod to pod, eyes searching. She passed people she knew from blurry memories, faces from before the sleep. A teacher, a cousin, a friend with laugh lines. They were all still here, still waiting. She turned to Jace. They trusted the machines. But the machines never came. "Back," Jace frowned. "Can you wake them?" She opened her hand and looked at the pendant. Maybe, if the energy still flows. Suddenly, the ground shook again. A low, deep vibration like thunder and stone. Jace looked toward the open door. "That's not good," she nodded. It heard the vault open. "Whatever's chasing us," he said, "it's not going to stop this time." She turned back to the pods. "Then we don't stop either." She moved to the center panel of the room, an old control pillar surrounded by dim screens and buttons, worn down by age. She pressed the pendant against it. It pulsed once. Then again, the pillar came to life. Light sparked. Symbols moved. One screen showed a diagram of the vault. Another showed rows of pods, and a large red warning flashing beside many of them. Jace asked, "What does red mean?" She bit her lip. "Dead. Too long in stasis." He felt the weight of it. "I'm sorry." She shook her head. "We still have some. We can still wake. The few who survived." She touched one icon. A soft hiss echoed through the chamber. One pod at the front released steam. The glass pulled back. Inside, a young boy stirred. His chest rose. His eyes fluttered open. He gasped for air. She ran to him, holding his shoulders. "You're safe," she whispered. "You're awake." He stared at her, confused. Where are we?" She smiled. "Far from war. You're not alone anymore." But the moment was short. A scream echoed from the tunnel. Metal on stone. Heavy. Fast. Jace ran to the door and looked out. "It's coming. Same as before, but not just one this time." The girl turned to the screen. "We don't have time to wake everyone." "Then what?" She looked at the control pillar. "There's another option. Emergency transfer." "What does that mean?" "I can upload the memory signatures of every pod into a core crystal. If we escape with that, we can rebuild somewhere else." Jace looked at the boy she just saved. "What about him?" "He comes with us." She reached under the panel, unlocked a section, and pulled out a glowing sphere, small, heavy with light. "This holds all of them," she said. "Their thoughts. Their lives." Jace took the sphere, slid it into his pack. The ground shook harder now. Stones cracked near the doorway. "We have to run," he said. She grabbed the boy's hand. "This way." They ran past the pods, past the broken ones, past the ones still waiting in silence. As they reached the back of the chamber, a second tunnel appeared, hidden. She slammed her palm on the wall and it slid open, just as they entered. A black shape filled the vault's doorway, a creature of smooth metal and hollow eyes. It didn't chase. It just stared, watching them flee with what it had failed to erase. The hidden tunnel was narrow and steep. The girl held the boy's hand tightly as they ran, with Jace close behind, his pack bouncing with every step. Inside it, the glowing core crystal pulsed soft, steady like a heartbeat. Behind them, the sound of metal scraped through the stone. The creature hadn't rushed. It didn't need to. It had waited for centuries. It could wait a little longer. "We're close," the girl whispered. The tunnel curved upward. Cool air brushed their faces. It was fresh, real, the scent of moss and wind. The surface, Jace shouted, I see light ahead. The boy stumbled. The girl caught him. Don't stop, she said gently. Almost there. They reached a broken metal hatch covered in vines. Jace kicked it open and sunlight poured into the tunnel. Real light, sky. They burst out onto the forest floor. It was quiet, green, wide. Birds flew overhead. Strange ones? Life had returned to the jungle, even if the war had not ended everywhere. The girl looked around. We're far from the cistern. Jace turned to her. Where now? She looked down at the boy barefoot, blinking in the sunlight like it hurt. We protect them. All of them. We find a place where they can live again. He nodded. And the crystal? She looked at Jace. You hold it. You carry their future. Jace adjusted the pack. Feels like I'm holding a galaxy. She gave a small smile. You are. Then the ground behind them shook. The metal creature had found the tunnel exit. It stepped from the hole like a shadow rising into daylight. Its body twisted slightly. Adjusting to the open space, it didn't stop. It moved forward. Jace pulled the pipe from his side. We're not fast enough. The girl stepped in front of him. We don't run. You can't fight that. I don't have to. She took the pendant from around her neck. The crystal still glowed. She held it up. The creature paused. Its body vibrated with strange energy, sensing the pendant's presence. The command key. The girl walked forward slowly. The creature raised its arms, ready to strike. She shouted, Protocol 0. The pendant flashed. The creature froze. Then it began to shake. Sparks flew from its joints. The glow in its eyes flickered. The girl's voice rose. Stand down. I am the last heir of Sixra. I command you to stop. The light in the creature's chest grew dim. It dropped to one knee, then collapsed. A past, deep hum escaped its body as it shut down forever. Jace exhaled, stunned. What did you do? She turned to him, tears in her eyes. I remembered who I am. She walked over and placed the pendant on the creature's chest. Let the past stay buried, she whispered. The jungle fell silent again. Jace stepped beside her. We're alive, she nodded, and so are they. The boy looked up. Where will we go? The girl knelt and touched his face gently. Somewhere bright, somewhere with rivers and wind and trees. Not walls. Jace looked up at the sky. We'll need supplies, power, shelter. We'll need time. You'll help me? She asked. He smiled. Always. They began walking toward the trees. No map. No base. No army. Just a girl who had once been alone. A boy who had just woken from a forgotten world. And a human who never meant to become a part of any of this. But he had. And now he was one of them. At the edge of the clearing, the girl looked back one last time. At the vines. At the tunnel. At the fallen machine. Then she turned away. She didn't need the cistern anymore. She had people now. The last spark of a forgotten race was alive, and the stars would wait for them again, together.